it religious liberty or discrimination? That's the question before the Supreme Court as justices hear arguments today in the case of a Colorado baker who refused to sell a wedding cake to a gay couple. Jack Phillips is the baker. He says not doing that is really in line with his beliefs. He doesn't believe in Halloween, doesn't believe in celebrating second marriages, but Colorado's Civil Rights Commission said not so fast, and that's how this whole thing ended up in court today. Evan Wilt's a reporter for World Magazine. He's following this case, and he's up late with me on the Final Five. Evan, who'd think we'd be talking about a cake on the Supreme Court at this point?
Yeah, who knew? But here we are, and boy, are people talking about it.
Yeah, so you got out there today, and I mean, this was a situation where you had people lined up outside of the Supreme Court waiting to get in. What was the mood and what was the sentiment outside?
Yeah, I mean, I was walking around Sunday evening. I saw people camped up, ready to spend the night. You know, there's people, very passionate people on both sides. They had the ACLU out there. They had the Human Rights Commission. They actually had a DJ player playing loud music so people could dance.
I heard the music. Yeah. I heard the music during one of those podium. But go ahead, continue.
Yeah, well, and then the other side, the pro Jack Phillips case, you had lawmakers came out and gave statements in support of religious liberty. And you had both sides just very fired up, just wanting to see that this case that's been 5 years in the making finally to be heard before the highest court in the land.
Yeah, so again, this case, and we just saw Jack Phillips in action there. He said this has been going through the courts for years, and this is really the first big case pertaining to LGBTQ rights since the landmark decision in 2015 that legalized gay marriage.
That's right, and you know, it was Justice Kennedy who wrote that decision in 2015 for the Obergefell decision, and now it looks like he's going to be the swing vote for this one as well. You know, you have 4 justices that are right-leaning, you have 4 justices that are left-leaning, and Justice Kennedy over the years has been very friendly to LGBTQ causes, but he's also a big proponent of the First Amendment. He doesn't want to abridge freedom of speech or freedom of religion, and that's really the contention of this case, is that, you know, how far does the First Amendment go to protect freedom of religion where it doesn't discriminate against someone else? And that's where they're ultimately going to have to decide.
So the whole issue of religious freedom really came into the American consciousness a couple of years ago when the governor of Indiana, a guy by the name of Mike Pence, backed a bill, signed a bill into law. And that was one of the reasons that when you had Donald Trump on the ballot, not necessarily a conservative traditionally, Mike Pence certainly was. And that really got a lot of people, a lot of Christian conservatives on board with President Trump, candidate Trump at the time.
Well, you're absolutely right about that. You know, when I talked to voters during the 2016 presidential election, the Supreme Court was the #1 thing that they said is that we need to vote for Donald Trump because we need to have a pro-Republican Supreme Court. Mm-hmm. And the same thing on the other side. People really wanted Hillary Clinton to be in office because they wanted to have that Supreme Court pick. And when Donald Trump nominated Neil Gorsuch, it was a validation of a lot of conservatives who wanted to have a conservative on the panel. For a critical case such as this.
And so you mentioned Anthony Kennedy. I mean, I heard there was some talk that maybe he would be the next Supreme Court justice to retire, or we don't really know at this point.
No, we don't.
Who it may be, and that's what makes it so mysterious. But I guess, you know, really girding for battle the next time around. Both sides would be, I'd imagine.
Right, and you know, Justice Kennedy, you know, he's 81 years old now. He is in line, likely to be the next one to retire, either him or Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. But really, you know, Justice Kennedy has been the person that has been deciding these critical cases. Everyone's looking at what he said today, and what he said was, you know, you have a place, you have something here that would really that could possibly violate the First Amendment.
Sure.
And he kind of gave arguments for both sides, and I think everyone took away, depending on their particular beliefs, they took away as a victory from what Justice Kennedy said today.
Well, I'll tell you what, I think back to other cases in the past, and there was always some sort of you know, some view of how the case panned out, and it looked like it was going to go one way, and it went a totally different way. So we'll have to wait for the decision to come down. Evan Wilt, thank you very much for joining me tonight. Good to see you, and we're back after this on the Final Five. I can't believe